This is New England Soccer Weekly with Tom Quinlan, Nick Giuliano, and Mike DeSilva on 790 The Score.
Well, it's Friday, boys and girls. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to another edition of New England Soccer Weekly. Mike, Nick, guys, we roll into the month of September. How are you?
What's up, Mikey? How you feeling?
Doing good, man. Feeling good. It's the weekend. We've got a lot of fun sports back. It's not just a soccer and then boring baseball world. We got some football, American football.
There
too.
you go.
There we go.
U.S. Open.
U.S. Open. Shout out Coco. That's my girl.
We are a soccer show, correct?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Damn.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, you got there's too much to worry about what's happening up on Route 1 right now.
Can't show support to our fellow American.
It's a big spot.
I'm not a tennis guy.
All right. Sorry.
Listen, big road stretch starts for this team right now. Next 3 on the road over the next 3 games here over the next 14 days. So tomorrow, then next
Minnesota.
Sunday, no. Tomorrow, then next Saturday, and then on the road again the following Saturday against Chicago. So Minnesota, Colorado, Chicago is how the lineup looks for you.
A couple later East Coast games, 8:30 this week, 9:30 next week. Some late nights for you,
Keep
Tom.
me up, mate. Keep
That's
me up
Saturday
late.
night. It doesn't really matter.
Just late night for everybody.
It's a late night.
Yeah.
Sunday
late,
mornings,
it's Saturdays.
you got the honey-do list. I got to get things done. You got late games.
It's true.
Oh, you know
You
what?
got a plan.
It's good prep for when you become a dad one day, right?
That's true.
Yeah. I don't know really how to diagnose what this team looks like going into a back-to-back West Coast road stretch here. I thought for sure last Saturday should have been a win versus Austin. I mean, you come out, I thought, relatively good to start the game. Austin sneaks away a goal, but you're able to grab the lead. You're able to grab the tie. You're able to tie the game before halftime, and then pretty much almost take the lead before halftime, and then take an early lead in the second half, and then you just disappointingly die at the end. And boy, the lack of soccer IQ sometimes on this team.
Yeah, so let's start there.
Stunning.
Let's start there. I mean, you coach. This is, again, a mental mistake at the end of the game, although it's a sub that had just come on the game. So you'd think the mental fortitude would be a little bit better. You mentioned soccer IQ. If you haven't seen the play, end of the game, up 2-1, full field in front of you, what do?
Oh, boy. Well, here's the thing.
You don't try to chip the goalie.
No,
you don't need another goal at that point. You just need to run the clock out.
It was dumb. It was dumb. Stupid. STOOPID. Stupid.
If he just dribbles to the end, the referee blows the whistle. That's the end of the game. I'm sure if you ask him, he knows that. It was a mistake. It was a really poor mistake. But, again, you just can't do that in that spot.
Yeah, it's just a mental mistake. And, again, this is kind of counting your chickens before they hatch type of thing. And we said this last week. We said this could very easily become a trap game. This could easily be a team that you're looking past, right? But you shouldn't be. You shouldn't be looking past any teams going forward. You can't be giving up 3 points here. You had an opportunity to stay there towards the top. And now a tie, honestly, that's a bad tie. That's a bad point there.
Especially on a night when Orlando takes 3 points away from Cincinnati.
Right.
You have a chance to close the gap on that. You still have a game in hand on Cincinnati here.
You needed those 3 points.
Yeah, points wise.
Especially now you're going on the road.
Well, yeah, 3 points. You're right.
You got a point, but like the 3 points,
the
3 points is really what you need there against a team that you should have beaten. It was just, again, we go through this. We've been complimenting them this year about how they weren't like the team from last year. They were more like the team from 2021, where
that was a 2022 like performance on Saturday,
where they don't close out games, where they're not. If they go behind, you feel like they don't have any chance to kind of close it out. That's what it felt like last week, and it's sad that it was against this team, which I mentioned last week again. This was like the Miami game earlier in the year where you felt like you needed to get the 3 points and they were already looking past them when you just cannot do that.
It's interesting, too, because Austin FC, we talked about on the show last week, was very susceptible to giving up late goals. That's how they had lost or tied a bunch of games this season. That came back to bite the Revolution. But I'll say this. That's obviously the highlight. That you can pinpoint that as a bad mistake.
It's the only moment that matters in the game, though.
But on a whole, if you go back, I disagree with what you said. I think after they went up 2-1, they meaning the Revolution, about the 60th minute on, it was really, really pinned back in New England's end.
But Austin should have won that game 3-2.
Pereira hit a seed off the far post. Earl Edwards Jr. made a massive save that parried a ball wide. This is a team, Mike, that you talked about all the time, and Tom, about closing out games. That moment of soccer IQ at the end, you can pinpoint that as a loss, but the last 25, 28 minutes, to me, up 2-1 against a team that you should bury, you could talk about the whole last half hour, really.
Yeah, it got ugly there at the end, and it's not what you want to see, especially at home right before a long road trip against some tough opponents. I think it's only going to get tougher from here on out.
I think the substitutions also weren't the best moves towards the end of the game. The decision from McCoon aside, Carlos Heel coming off was odd as well. It was a really disjointed end of the game to me.
You needed to get defensive, so taking Hill off made sense. What didn't make sense to me
but if he's on the field, maybe that decision doesn't happen.
But no, if he's on the field, it doesn't matter. If Ian Harkes is on the field, Ian Harkes runs to the corner. The sub that you should be confused about is, why would you take Harkes out for McCoon? If you're going to take Harkes out, take him out for McNamara.
Well, I said all of the
yeah, but you're talking about what Hill's irrelevant. Hill's irrelevant at the 92nd minute when it's 3 or 4 minutes of extra time. You need the defense. Hill's not going to stop a ball on a counter. So you do need Tommy McNamara in that spot.
Yeah, but you may be able to keep possession of the ball in the attacking third. And
that's my point.
It's a lot of times, and that's why they always say
it's basic soccer IQ. The 5-year-old that you're teaching in Seekonk knows to run to the corner when the game's over. Okay, I understand that, but you get my general point.
Yeah,
well, we just said that though.
Yeah, the point is like the best form of defense is your attack. Okay. And if what you're doing is
if Carlos Heel's on the field, that probably doesn't happen.
The ball slows down, the possession is kept.
Those two things tie in. I just don't. I don't know how those two things tie in when you need defense at the end of the game. You need to clear out the ball. You need to get the ball out of your own half. It doesn't matter if Carlos is on the field or not. Any soccer player can take the ball out of their own half.
Yeah, but what you're so upset about, it was an offensive mistake.
Yeah. It was a guy seeing glory when he really shouldn't have. He should have played it smart, distribute the ball, keep possession, and you know what? Maybe if he'll demands attention from not just the other team but his own team. So if he's racing back to collect the ball, he's gonna get the attention as the captain of the team, and then he can possess the ball, hold possession in the attacking third. You don't give up the ball. You don't give up a goal. I mean, it's
maybe that ball that he receives there too. He plays more into space rather than to feet, and then he has to run onto it.
And he gets fouled like he does all the time. And then you have a free kick. You have a dead ball opportunity to keep possession longer. Regardless, we're arguing something that we have. It means nothing because it didn't happen. What happened on the field happened on the field. It was a poor decision. Whoever was on the field, we could say all to our, till our dying breath that they would have done something different, but we don't know that. At the end of the day, it was a bad decision. Mm-hmm. It was a bad, just soccer IQ on the field. You need to be better at the end of the game, and you cannot that was just taking an opponent for granted, saying, hey, I can go for this and not be worried about the counterattack. And, well, it ended up biting you in the butt. So that's just the bottom line.
Yeah, overall, not a great night, despite the fact Tomas Chancalay in his first home game for the New England Revolution scores 2, so that's good, I guess. Other than that, it's just a really disappointing night overall. Just sorry. That's a game that you should have won. You should have walked out of there with all 3 points on Saturday night. There is no excuses to have dropped 3 to Austin. You got lazy in the second half. I do agree with you there. The last half hour sucked. Yeah. You really should have lost 3-2.
There were some good performances.
But you got saved by the post.
You mentioned Chancalay, definitely his best game here. That's great moving forward. Both of those goals, obviously, Carlos Heel was a part of. Nacho Heel, I thought, played his best game in a New England Revolution jersey. There was, after that goal was given up to Austin, you did see a team rally and come together and score back 2 goals. So there were some good things. But again, overall, that last half hour, giving up a goal the way that it happened, soccer IQ mental mistake, tough to see, but it's Minnesota now. That was a week ago. You gotta move on.
The other thing I do want to kind of harp on while we are staying on this game for a second, I like Farrell at right back. I mean, obviously Matt Polster missed the game last week because his wife went into labor. Congratulations on Rocky.
Congrats.
Baby.
But I like the way that Farrell kind of just looked comfortable all night. I didn't think he played himself out of position. I didn't think he got caught trapped like, Brandon Byersley does, where you have to rely on your midfield and your center backs to stop a counterattack. Obviously, maybe you're playing slightly different with Andrew in that position, but the back four, for it being really a makeshift back four of Omar, Andrew, Romney, and Sweat, really wasn't that bad. And everybody likes to pile on Ben Sweat, but I didn't think he had a terrible night.
Agreed. Two games in a row. I think actually 3 in a row maybe for Omar. I used serviceable minutes, and that's not a knock. That's what you want from guys like that in those positions.
That's what he's supposed to be here to do.
Absolutely. And I agree. I think Ben Sweat did very well at left back. I liked Farrell at right back. Outside of the goal, really, where there was just too much space and not enough communication early on in the game, which happens sometimes when you have a bunch of new guys back there. I thought the back four played very well. And again, you don't really know about depth till you see it, and those guys, I thought, again, serviceable, positive game. Again, I'm sure they're
very well. I don't know. They still let up 2 goals.
Yeah, a couple of mental mistakes, but again, it's something that I think, all things considered, with the injuries that have happened to this team and the changes that have been made, losing your coach, a lot of things you have to take that into consideration too. So I think that they played pretty good given the circumstances. I give them credit for that.
How much do you think tired legs are starting to pick up here? I mean, let's see. You go from not playing for a little over a month to 3 games in 8 days. Montreal, Red Bulls, then Austin. You think this season's starting to drive this team to the ground?
I think, everybody else is playing a similar schedule too.
End of the season woes.
Yeah, I just think that and a lot of these guys are pretty fresh. You got some newcomers, you got some guys playing in more minutes now that they weren't necessarily playing before. So I wouldn't put it so much on the fatigue. I would hope not. These are professional athletes. I would put it more of just, there are going to be games where the changes affect you. When you have too many changes on the field, maybe you're making the wrong substitutions, and this isn't even just a Bruce is not there thing, because Bruce in the past had made poor substitutions that affected the end of games
or no subs at all.
So it's not even like you can really pin this on Bruce not being there. I just think it was a mental game that they let get to them, and going forward here, starting tomorrow in Minnesota, you just can't let it happen anymore. You got to finish strong, because there's some teams that are gaining momentum in the East that you can't afford to be going the opposite direction at the end of the season.
Well, one thing I'm interested again to see how this team responds to the last result tomorrow night, because this season there's been some missteps, but the team's always bounced back, and that is a sign of a good mental fortitude, good locker room. We'll see, because again, tying the way that they tied, knowing how that game went in the locker room. We'll see what happens in Minnesota. By the way, this Minnesota team is pretty good, and they've won. They've got points in 4 of their last 4 games, 2 wins, 2 ties. It's again in a difficult environment up in Minnesota, so we'll see.
Only 4 home wins on the year, though. So it's not like it's an impossible place to play. You're not going to play in Cincinnati. They're coming off a 3-0 win on the 31st at home against the Rapids, but a lot of draws in there. Only 2 losses at home this year, but for a team that only has 4 wins, fighting for a bigger spot in the playoffs, I wouldn't hate a draw this weekend. I think anything, because you still have that 1 game in hand, so it doesn't. As long as you win next week versus Colorado, as long as you walk away with a point this weekend, it's not the end of the world. I don't think. I think next weekend's bigger, because next weekend should be the layup.
Minnesota statistically has been a very average team this year. 9 wins, 9 draws, 8 losses. They have 33 goals for, 32 goals against. When you're looking at these, when you're looking at these 2 rosters, the Revolution are definitely better. But I will say again, in their last 4 games, they've played pretty well. If you pick up 4 points, they have some momentum, is a word that somebody on this show really liked.
Very loudly, yes.
And Emmanuel Reynoso is playing very, very well. Going back and watching some of their highlights, he is integral in all of these goals that are being scored. He's got great vision. He's got a very dangerous left foot. He's teamed up very well with Pico up front. Tajori Shardy, who I think we all know that name as well. He's been playing pretty well. Reynoso is that guy, the number 10, to definitely be watching for tomorrow night.
Yeah, Reynoso is going to be a nightmare. He's coming off an assist last game versus San Jose, and then he had 2 goals the other night versus Colorado at home.
Yeah, 1 PK and then one just a very nice goal.
He's going to rip the ball. He's not going to be afraid to take shots. As a free kick taker, pretty accurate. I'd say he's. I believe it or not, we talk a lot about really great number 10s in the league this year. You got Hani Mukhtar, we got Carlos, we got Lucho Acosta, you got Thiago Almeida. Trying to think of who else I'm forgetting.
Shaqiri. He said heel. He did. Yeah, he actually did say heel.
There's a bunch.
Columbus, Zelarayan. Reynoso kind of fell below the mix of those guys, but he's one of the better players in the league. I was
impressed.
I think when you look at the total, I mean, maybe it's because there's an East Coast bias. We see Carranza more than we see Reynoso. So not seeing a guy like that regularly, you forget he's out there. So he's goes without saying he's going to be a huge difference maker, and also too because you still got to rely on Earl Edwards Jr. This new Tomas Vlasic is not in yet. He's still having trouble with visa issues.
Well, you brought up a good point, too. I mean, outside of good vision for Reynoso, he's very dangerous corners, but free kicks. So that's something that back four has to watch out. You don't want to give up any ridiculous fouls and give them an opportunity to have a nice strike about 25, 30 yards out because he will put it on frame.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I want to see some consistency in the lineup going forward, though. Like I don't want to see a different lineup every week. Like they need to really kind of stay consistent with who they're putting out there, at least to start the game, to allow these guys to build, getting comfortable playing with each other.
Yeah, you're gonna have. For the time being, you're gonna have a lot of turnover. First off, Vatslik's gonna come in here soon, so he's gonna replace Earl Edwards. So that's one spot that's gonna change. The defense is gonna, I think, be shifting every week. I think you're going to have to...
I know, does he put Dewan back there? Because when Dewan came in, he was playing in the midfield.
Do you switch Dewan to the right? If Ben looks comfortable on the left, and Dewan's a naturally right-footed player.
He could play either side.
Or why don't you play him up?
Could.
And take out who? Because, I didn't think Nacho played that bad the other night.
Nacho's been low-key, he's been okay.
He's been okay.
He played very well last game.
Yes. I think with the
but I would play Dewan Jones over
Nacho.
Him. Yes.
At right mid?
Sure.
Yeah. Well, because Dewan Jones is a natural he was a forward.
I think Dewan Jones can play anywhere on the field, regardless of dominant foot.
But looking at the back, you're going to have some fluctuation there for some time. With your outside backs, and then, you'll be moving around center back pieces. Henry's supposed to be working his way back in. We saw those reports yesterday with Richie on Sports Hub. So they are, or was that 2 days ago? I think he talked to the media yesterday.
This week.
Yes, this week. Days are blending together. Sorry, it's been a while. But it's one of those things where you're getting healthy, but now you've got to try to figure out what your best lineup is. Defensively, you're still trying to figure out what your best lineup is. Andrew, I don't think has played himself. There's a lot of Andrew Farrell hate out there. I don't think Andrew has ever played himself out of a starting position. I thought he's been fine this year. So do you keep him in the back four, and do you put Romney and Kessler together, right? And play with a back three? It's the good thing is that you're going into mid-September, late September, October here with options.
Yeah, and you're going to be gaining more as guys start to get even healthier. So, yeah, I think that back line I'm not overly concerned with because they've kind of gotten through the bulk of the season having to piece things together. Really, they haven't had their consistent back four pretty much all year.
Yeah.
And they've been good. They've been pretty good. So
there hasn't been a game where you get blown out.
Exactly.
I know you don't love giving up 2 goals, but 2 goals a game is pretty average.
The one big blowout they had was beginning of the year.
4-0.
It was the second game of the season. And
yes.
I just think that this team defensively isn't. It's interesting
with the revolving door. You don't see this a lot, across soccer,
especially because it was an issue last year.
Yeah,
it was an issue last year where you had.
I think it would be
nobody.
It would be an issue anywhere in the world with all of this. So they've done a very good job of kind of staving off until they can hopefully get. But Brandon Bye's not coming back, so it's
but you'll get Kessler,
you
get Jones,
Kessler back. Yep,
and you'll be able to slot them in back there. And like you said, whether you go with the 3 in the back, I like the idea of trying it. You can play Dewan Jones a little bit higher.
Next week might be the week to do it.
It might be.
Because that team is...
That's the team that you have to do it against.
Yikes.
They're just in shambles, and they're the worst team in the league. And they
just fired their coach.
Yeah, they just fired their coach. So, if you want to experiment, I mean, even this week to a certain extent too. I mean, you're going to make the playoffs, and by all means, you should finish within the top 4, which guarantees you a home game. So this team isn't terrible on the road. I don't know. This feels like, for a team that's only got 4 home wins this year in Minnesota United, this feels like the game to also experiment with too. Don't be afraid to kind of.
I don't know about that. See,
as long as you walk out with the point, in my opinion, I think that's a good night.
Yeah, again, on paper, but if you go the last 4 games, this team has played better, and they're gaining that word that Mike likes to use. So I don't know about this week to try to start. You have to put the effort. The effort's got to be this weekend because Minnesota is playing pretty well.
I just get worried when they play for a point, because that's such a fine line, and we've seen. I don't even like
that sentence.
It's because it's scary, because playing for a point it puts you in a vulnerable position, because then if you go down, the tables can easily be turned on you, where now they get up and you're playing for that tie.
And you're mentally scrambling.
And now you're scrambling,
yeah.
You're overcompensating, maybe you're getting caught on counterattacks because you got guys attacking a little bit, more aggressively. So I get really concerned. I'm of the belief that you should never fully adjust your game plan team by team. I think you have put out what's best for your team every week, whether it be formation wise, tactics. Just don't change it based on your opponent, because it doesn't always work out for you. And then you get caught trying to scramble and make adjustments at halftime or 60 minutes in, and now you lose half the game that way. Just stick to what you're playing, stick to what your team is comfortable with, what they've been working on at practice, and that's it. Just don't overthink it.
3 road wins on the year so far for New England Revolution, 4 losses, 4 draws, and in 4 of those road games, so 4, 8 plus 3, 11, 4 out of 11 road games this year, you've picked up a red card.
That's not good.
So
don't like that.
You're not the best road team in the world, but
wait, that's not good.
That's not good.
Good,
no.
Great analysis.
4 out of 11 games, you get a red card.
Fantastic.
Jesus.
Good analysis.
Not
good.
There.
It's not good.
Not good.
See, they ended up drawing Columbus in that one. They lose to Miami, draw New York City FC, lose to the Red Bulls. So.
But that's an indication of what happened last Saturday night too, is this team is beating themselves more than getting beaten. So again, going into playoffs, that I'd rather have a team do that than a team losing because they're just not as good as the other team. So that's something that if you're that coaching staff, you could work with that, because it's just mental stuff, which is what it comes down to. It at the end of the day, that's what sports is all about.
And it hasn't to this point, but is that something where now losing Bruce, most likely for the rest of the season, forever probably.
Yeah, forever.
Does that come down to, is that where it starts to affect your team?
Because well, you didn't see it
up to this point. You haven't seen it.
Yeah, till Saturday night.
Till Saturday night, and now it's like, okay, if the team starts to lose their way a little bit, they gain their 5th red card in an away game. Now, does Richie have the locker room capabilities to kind of keep these guys on task here?
Yeah, that red card is an interesting point to be brought up.
Over aggression, maybe on the road. I don't know.
Well, mental. Red cards are meant to that's it. It's a mental mistake.
Yeah.
But to get 3 of them on the road like that.
4.
Interesting.
4 out of 11.
That's you know tough. What? I'm going to go on record too. Not good.
Not good.
No,
not good.
Not good.
Not good. That's why you watch the show.
Here's something else that's not good. Sans the Bruce stuff. What do you think about the Noel Buck stuff? So Noel Buck gets the call from England's U19 team to go play for them.
Right.
Doesn't seem like there's really any momentum for Noel to break into the United States men's national team.
Which is...
He said he's talked to Greg, but there's more there's more interest from England to him, and he doesn't know if he's going to start on the first team. But in terms of breaking into the national team, Noel Buck, for some reason, has an easier in to England than the United States. From a federation standpoint, bizarre.
Yeah.
Why would you want to lose one kid to England, especially one kid that everybody seems to be talking about?
There's not like one.
Yeah, and I've seen like multiple lists this week where people were like, they have Noel Buck as like the top prospect in like
at
all
least
of the country
top
right
5,
now, under 20 years
Getting
old.
ready to go to Tottenham. There's all this talk about him going to play in England. He had a growth spurt at the beginning of the year. Like,
he looks like a different person. It's crazy.
Completely different
He
person.
looks like a grown man. He went from a boy to a man, and it's just crazy to see how fast that's changed.
It happened. It's what's funny is that for for those of us that, and I was there for the back end of it, but that watched the maturation of Diego Fagundes overnight, this is that times 100.
Yeah. Well, I mean, no disrespect to Diego, club legend, but also he's not the player that Noel Buck is. I mean, let's just call it what it is. No disrespect at all. Noel Buck is a talented guy, and there's a reason why the English national team is eyeing him and bringing him over there, and there's links to clubs in England because he is a talent. He has a natural talent. He has a natural understanding of the game. He's physically growing now even more so because he's so young that he's growing into that build that you want from that defensive midfielder, center midfielder position. I mean, what's not to like about the kid?
I know where you're going to go, Tom, but I have a different question.
Okay.
And this goes back to a question about our national program forever. Yeah. If England is so high on this kid, if all these lists, whoever making those lists are so high on this kid,
scouts,
if these 6 eyeballs on this show are so high on this kid, why is our country's national program not high on Noel Buck? That's my question. I don't care about the press conference. Yeah. That is my question.
I mean, it's the questions we've been asking forever, my whole life, and I don't get it either. And it's so funny, especially when you celebrated getting Balogun to come to the United States, where he had the same option, where he could have played in England if he wanted to. He was on Arsenal. He was living there already. Like, you recruited him here to play for the U.S. national team, as because he is a citizen here as well. Why wouldn't you look at that and be like, we have the same opportunity with a kid who's even younger, who has room to grow and is already a very talented player? Why? To me, it doesn't make any sense. It just truly doesn't make any sense. Is it now? Again, do we have all the details?
Forever.
We've been doing it forever. Do we have all the details? Maybe not. I don't see.
Well, they'll probably come back and tell you they can't take everybody. Right? Not everybody gets taken. It just, for a kid that's got a lot of minutes, that's played a lot in the last,
in one of the top teams in the league, in your domestic league.
So in a country, England, that's, I don't know, pretty good, they're going to, oh no, well, so they don't have a lot of players over there that they can pick from? Of course they do.
I think
but they identified talent, and they are giving him a shot that we should be giving a shot.
Bruce was on this kid and the young talent in the organization from the beginning. We remember before the season started, when Bruce is excited about something, say whatever you want about the man, he means it. And it's rare for him to talk about it. So when he's saying that he's excited about this young talent, which includes Noel Buck, and then you see Noel Buck start the season with some good minutes, and he's playing really well.
It's like a national headline. Taylor Twellman came on and it was like gushing about it. We had all these Apple personalities every week talking about Noel Buck.
I just don't see it. I don't get it. Are these guys and girls in the U.S. soccer, are they being contrarians and just don't want? I don't know. I don't have the answer. I just know that whatever is happening is wrong.
Well, let me switch it up this way. So, yes, I think we all agree the talent's there with Noel Buck. You don't want to lose one of the good ones, what you think is one of the good ones, to England. But then
all places,
his post-game comments kind of made me go, what's going on in this kid's head? 2 things that stuck out. First off, Noel Buck says it's an honor to be called into the England youth camp. But then let's start with this. Do you think it's rubbing in U.S. Soccer's face to show up to Gillette the other night in an England jersey?
I mean, they didn't offer him an opportunity. What would you do?
Yeah. I think that sounds like a move right out of the Tommy Quinn in the fourth
I would do that.
Book.
I mean, why not? He's going.
By the way, I let's just all kidding aside. I don't love it, but you saw him in the press. He's upset.
But is he making it about him?
I don't think he is. I think he's a kid that believes in himself. Okay. Is he aware of wearing the England jersey? That, of course, that he's making a statement there. I don't think that was done by accident. But I also think it's like, hey, these guys believe in me.
You don't think no more that was just the only clean shirt? Everything else?
Yeah. The laundry. It was laundry day. He didn't have anything else that he could wear that day. No, he did it on purpose. Of course he did. But why not? If Portugal called me tomorrow, you know what I mean? And I was a prospect like Noel Buck, and I had the opportunity to play for both, and I didn't hear from U.S., damn right I'd be showing up the next day with the Portugal jersey on, because I'd be proud as hell.
Would you be proud as hell, or would you be walking in with a chip on your shoulder?
Probably a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Probably a little bit of both.
I mean, for me, that's not a move that I would do, but I'm not Noel Buck. And again, people are pointing to his demeanor in the press conference. That just might be his thing. And I think you might have hit the nail on the head. He believes in himself. He's clearly done all this work in a short amount of time to get to the position he's in. The country that he lives in right now didn't want him.
And plays in their league.
He plays in their league. Another one doesn't. So he said, you know what? I'm throwing this on, and everyone else can take it.
I don't hate the move. I don't hate the move.
Well, here's the other reason why the jersey thing also sticks out to me. Would you have done it if Bruce was there? Would you have disrespected?
It's a good question.
Would you have shown up to your locker room, which is led by the face forever, we'll see if he still will be, of U.S. soccer in one Bruce Arena?
It's a fair point. It's fair.
It's a good question.
And even if you would have, do you think he would have gotten a talking to? Like, hey, listen, I know you're angry, but do you really want to get into this pissing match?
Yeah.
So it's a fair point. I've talked about this on the show. This is just my opinion. The reason that I wouldn't do it is because, to me, out of all soccer is the ultimate team sport. We hear this all the time. There's 11 guys on the field. There's everybody on the bench. It is not one individual ever. So to me, regardless if I'm 1 on the roster or 23, I would never want to do something to separate myself, make myself a storyline, or think that I'm bigger than the team. So I can't go on without saying that. And that goes. Noel Buck did exactly the opposite of that. So to me, that Tom brings up a good point that I have to walk the kidding back a little bit. I don't like that move. If I was an older player on that team, I might have had words a little bit just to say, listen, like it's not. I know you're upset. I know this is your thing, but this is our team, and you're walking into our house making a storyline. You probably don't want to do that.
Yeah, and it could be as simple as it doesn't have to be like wagging your finger at him like no little boy, you can't do this.
Like do this if you want to go out to dinner. Do that. Have your friends take it.
Just like,
but
hey, man,
you're coming to work right now like this. Yeah.
And
that's a good point.
And then the other thing he says is, quote, when he says, "Yeah, it's an honor to be called into the England Youth Net Camp," blah blah blah. But then he says, "I feel like U.S. soccer hasn't really given me the time of day, to be completely honest. When I get called in for the England camp, it's an honor for me."
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one is fine.
What do you want? Yeah. What do you want him to say there? Like you
just say it's an honor to be called into
he's a kid.
England camp, and
he's 18.
But somebody's got to be able. But that's where somebody's got to stop filling his head and stop saying U.S. soccer sucks.
I don't have a problem with that quote.
I didn't love it. I also didn't love when I put the question to him of, "Do you feel disrespected by the U.S. Federation?" And he goes, "I'm not going to answer that." Just say no.
Yeah.
It's not that hard of an answer. You might not.
I think that quote
pretty much says that. But could somebody read between the lines?
Yeah, I think he answered it right there.
Right, and but again, you have an opportunity, me being the dummy,
clip that.
Asking the question, it's very avoidable to say that answer. All you got to say is, "No, I don't feel disrespected." Even if you do feel disrespected, you still say no.
But he's a kid, and he's got cameras in front of him and microphones and people watching, and he knows it. And sometimes,
and maybe you're right. Maybe the camp is in his head. Maybe his closeness is in his head. Who knows?
It goes back to
and if it works in his favor, then he looks like a genius. Because now let's put it this way: let's say he doesn't make the team in England, right? You don't think you think USA is going to be too prideful to pass up on a prospect and be like, "Hey,
let's trust Greg?"
No.
I know.
Look what they did to Gio.
We're on camera too.
Stop me in my tracks.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no, I don't trust Greg.
Nope.
And you're right.
And even still, by the way, that player you just answered, even still some of the stuff that you're reading online, it's like, what are we doing here right now?
Yeah, it's absurd.
So I thought the Noel Buck interaction was actually probably the most interesting thing to come from that game on Saturday night.
I would still wear the England jersey.
I can understand wanting to wear it.
That makes sense for you.
I would still do it.
That makes sense.
I would still do it.
I definitely would.
I still think it thumbs the nose at U.S. soccer, and I don't necessarily think that when you're a young kid like that, and I still think you have a lot to prove, as good as you might be, could leave a bad taste in people's mouth. But hey,
could.
Listen, being cocky and maybe sometimes arrogant isn't the worst thing in the world.
If he goes out and plays, if
you show up.
if he shows up,
If he backs
You
it
show
up,
up.
it's
different
even
story.
better. If he doesn't, if he starts to suck, or he stops putting in an effort or whatever, now he starts to act like he's too good for MLS and for U.S. soccer. That's one thing. But a little like, hey man, this is a little nod to you guys for overlooking me. I'm getting an opportunity in England.
Yeah, but going to work with it. Work is Gillette Stadium.
I kind of like the move. I don't know.
So there's that.
Gotta play the heel.
And the other big thing that came out this week is the latest on Bruce. And let me look right at that camera.
Oh boy.
And give.
Make sure you look over your computer screen.
Yes, thank you.
One shot, Steve. This is one shot.
I had received a report from a source earlier this week saying that items had been removed from Bruce Arena's office. The Revolution have come out and said that information was false, and I retracted that tweet, and we move on. And I'm just acknowledging it here, just so we have it for the record. Okay?
There it is.
Okay. Charlie Joseph puts out a tweet. Thank you very much, Steve. Step in front of the camera for a second.
Steve, pop in. Just give
Just
a
say
little
hello. Come over here. Step right in front of the camera.
Shout out to Steve. There he is.
Our
Steve.
tech engineer, making sure everything works. We got 2 shots now.
Yeah,
We're-
we've come a long
Did
way.
you do that? Do you think people thought we were lying that we had somebody?
It was
else?
imaginary Steve.
We make everybody part of the show.
No,
Yeah,
that's fine.
Steve-
I just
Steve's a part of it.
Shout out to Steve.
Steve,
Very
thank
good.
you very much.
Thank you.
It's a
Appreciate
pleasure,
it, buddy.
It's a pleasure.
Showery puts out the tweet earlier this week on, let's see, today's Friday.
Was it Tuesday?
Tuesday. That it's a picture of him and Bruce that says, "Thank you for being the man you are." 100.
Yep.
Fist bump.
Yep.
I appreciate every lesson and every morning conversation we used to have. Love you, big guy. Now, how do you interpret that?
I mean, to me, it sounds like he's saying goodbye.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
pretty
that's pretty
self-explanatory.
But, to play devil's advocate here for a second, could you flip it and be like, "Hey, I haven't said anything publicly in support of my mentor. Let me put something out there." Yes. To me, it seems like maybe Shawry has some inside information that he's not coming back. That
So
to me is
he
what it
trying
looks
to
like.
jump the story there? Because again, that came
feels like
out
he has to
of
be.
nowhere.
I don't
He's
know.
the first person with inside the organization.
It's been a month
to say anything.
It's been a
like
month
this.
of nothing, and then that tweet from Shalry Joseph comes out of nowhere. It's bizarre.
And if there's one person,
It was wild.
if there's one person that could get away with it, it's Showery, because he's
a
a
legend.
club
Club
legend.
legend.
Absolutely.
He's been around forever.
Love Shawry. Which, by the
He's
way,
probably the top assistant next to Richie.
I would hope if Richie, I don't know.
Richie's not here. Showery's number one.
That's my guy that I would want to have
Same.
coach his team.
Yes.
I think that's a no-brainer.
We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
But I agree with Nick. I think he kind of told you what's going on.
Yeah. Without,
It's tough. It's and that tweet hasn't been deleted, so
No, it's there.
tough to read those words in that succession and not come to that.
Now, let me
conclusion.
ask you this. If you're the Revolution and this is a member of your staff tweeting that out and it wasn't supposed to come out because this is something that is real, he is really gone,
Yeah.
you wouldn't ask him to take it down?
I can't imagine they didn't talk to him.
So
I
then
can't
maybe
imagine they
maybe
said
that's
to him, "Hey,
another
you got
part
to
of
be
the story.
careful."
Maybe
Well, if
that's
this
another
is-
part of the story.
Yeah,
though.
but then this is where the other side of it could be: is he just publicly supporting him and
But how can
doesn't
you
actually know
support?
anything?
But without knowing the information, wouldn't it make Charlie look bad to support somebody that's still
Not if he
quote,
doesn't know
unquote,
what's
under
going on.
investigation?
Not if he doesn't know what's happening. If he had inside information, he supports them in his really bad things, yes. But if there's an investigation, no information, if you're Shawry and you have a great relationship with Bruce, you don't support your friend? You know what I mean?
But that's why I think it's I use the word bizarre, but
But how many people do you think still support Bruce but can't do it publicly?
probably a ton.
Yeah.
Probably a lot of people. But Shawry feels like maybe he's above
But
it.
again, you mentioned it. I don't know about Charlie Joseph. We don't know the severity of what these allegations are still. So it's interesting to me to put that tweet out there, not knowing it, because again, we're postulating here. If it is something horrific and that's out there, to your point, how does that make him look? And then how does that make the organization that he works for, that the
Yeah.
tweet's still up there? Look, I don't. Again,
It's
to
been
not
3
have
days.
any information still. What are we going on? 5 weeks? 6 weeks?
I think it's 6 weeks now.
I mean,
Yeah.
you brought up the point of the show.
I was
few weeks
convinced
ago.
we would have heard something last week. I was
Yeah,
convinced.
no, that wasn't my point. My point that you brought up a few weeks ago is like in any other league, maybe in any other business on planet Earth, there would be something out there.
Zoe and Bertrand were talking about it earlier this week. They were saying that it's a disgrace. It is astonishing that we are sitting in the second week of September almost.
Yeah.
And Bruce Arena is completely gone.
And Bill Belichick is like breaking up with his girlfriend, and I've seen it everywhere. We know
It's
every
top
detail about
news,
it.
and this is not even.
And this is organization-altering decision,
Sure.
league-altering decision, right? The U.S. soccer-altering decision, because this is one of your
about the
biggest
face of
cases.
U.S. soccer
So
culture.
let me do this, right? Because
How do we have nothing?
You're you're a news reporter. That's your job, right?
People after this week would say no, but anyways, go ahead.
Okay.
not true.
So let's just go with that right
Pop
now.
Steve. Oh, you can always pop Steve. It's great.
Yeah. Let's just
Love
say,
the live
let's
audience.
just say for the sake of the conversation that you're a news reporter, which you still are right now.
Tell Twelman I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Well, that we could talk about that after if
Taylor.
you want. But this to me, weeks ago, is a news story that's not being reported by the news. So
Boston Globe tried to do a little digging.
okay, Boston Globe, but like I don't want to do this. Like Tom Brady, like Deflategate led the news for 2 months. This is we don't.
Nobody cares about soccer.
No, but that doesn't even matter. This is something that happened. We don't know what it is still, but this is a huge name.
I agree.
In a sport
That nobody cares about.
Okay. All right.
Now,
Well,
us
maybe
we
that's
do.
it.
Us we do.
But this is. I
the
don't
news
care about the
cycle.
story. I don't care about the sport. Isn't this a story?
Yeah, but the
regardless
news,
of what it is.
But it's because of the sport.
the news cycle doesn't care enough about the sport to cover it.
Bingo.
But isn't the story anyway? Like 6 weeks later, we don't have an answer about somebody that is put on administrative leave, and we don't know what.
Should also give you a little insight, a little bit more insight into how far this league still needs to go.
Okay.
As far as we think it's come, it
All
still
right.
needs to go so far.
All right.
When you have one of the biggest names in your sport under an extreme investigation to the point where nobody knows anything for 6 weeks,
Yeah.
and the news doesn't care.
Yeah.
And it doesn't care. And it's just
Wow, you just sad realization.
It's
by me.
no, it's what it is.
Sad.
You're not wrong.
No.
It's just, unfortunately, it is what it is.
All right, let's
And-
go. Let's go to Taylor Twellman did call you an idiot this week. So.
yeah, because he didn't like the fact that, whatever, people reacted to the tweets, and he thought I was dumb for putting out the idea that I think Bruce would have been able to find a deal, which is amazing because Taylor doesn't even follow me on Twitter, so I don't even know how he would have seen it.
He watches everything.
Um,
Didn't reply to me.
Bruce-
I invited him back on the show.
He gave you a TQ.
He gave me a TQ.
That's what he. They TQ.
Give me a TQ. Well, here's the thing. Taylor.
My point was Bruce would have found a way to keep Petro here for the rest of the
See,
season.
I
like
hate
he
to
did
do
it
this
with
to you.
Buxo.
I hate to
like he did it
do
with
this to you.
Tajon,
I don't think so.
Like he did it. Listen,
I don't think so.
will it's amazing to me that you could do it with all those guys in a Supporter Shield winning year. They had the same hype around them about going to Europe.
They didn't have that
They didn't
price
have
tag.
the price tag.
This guy sat out a game because he was clearly upset.
I
It's a different situation.
think
This
the
guy was gone.
relationships are different.
This
The
guy was
relationships are
gone.
different.
But I think if Bruce is around to maintain that relationship, it's different.
I don't think so because it goes back to the $1 million turned into $17 million to a player that didn't play 2 weeks earlier because he wanted to go to that league.
And
It's
remember
done.
that these conversations began before Bruce's suspension.
And
Yeah.
Bruce was holding it firm. He was holding firm.
that was,
because he didn't
that
want
was
the
until
value.
17 mil
And
came
not to
out.
mention, the Nottingham Forest deal fell through. Bruce wasn't suspended yet because when
what was
Petro
that?
sat,
That deal was $8 million, right?
yeah, no, it was $7
8
million.
plus
Okay,
Or,
so
add-on.
you put $10 million more on
Yeah,
that.
you
I don't
double
care
it.
who the coach is. That guy's gone.
My point was, though, and if you want to watch the video,
Petrovic
Taylor,
was not happy with the club. Period.
Yes.
but fine, I get that. You're also playing against Messi, potentially in the playoffs, so I don't know how much that would have worked against you
I don't-
to
but
prove
at that-
yourself
it
against the
doesn't-
top goal scorer in the
doesn't
world.
Scored
matter
another
at
free
that
kick
point.
yesterday. For those that say he can only do it against MLS, he did it yesterday.
Yeah,
He's unbelievable.
he-
He's-
he's a
he's
psycho.
playing-
I think, believe it or not, I think Messi's hitting a new prime, which
Yeah,
is
dude,
scary.
it's next level
Gross.
Messi, who's already the GOAT.
It's gross.
It's wild.
This is like Jordan's second three-peat, where like he just went into another level.
And he doesn't even look. Yeah, he doesn't look like he's slowing down. He doesn't look like he's breathing heavy. He's just having
He
a
looks
time.
so good out there.
Just
It's
having a time.
so-
But
it's
back
just
to
stupid. Yeah.
But back to Petro, I believe that Bruce would have been able to finagle a deal to keep him here for the rest of the year while also getting ready to sell him off to a team like Chelsea, where they're still going to need help in January. And by the way, question for Mr. Twellman.
Oh,
One shot. Steve,
I'm scared.
one shot again, please.
yeah, you got it. It's
Petro
on it.
wants to be the starter for a Premier League team. How soon do you think he's taking that job away at Chelsea?
Probably
Now,
sooner than
granted,
you think.
I was watching.
that doesn't. I'm a Chelsea
I
supporter.
think,
They are so
might be happening.
They're so bad.
when
They
I-
just lost to Turner's team the other day.
Yeah, I know that was bad.
How does-
I
yeah,
slammed,
yeah,
I
that's-
slammed Chelsea last
How do we not
weekend.
bring that up?
They
That
just
is-
lost. I mean, shout out to Matt Turner, but I'm a Chelsea supporter, and I got my guy Petrovic on the bench, and I'm just looking at this club like, what the hell? You're
Yeah,
spending $1 billion.
But that's
whatever.
my
We don't have enough time.
That's my point. Is like you wanted to go into England and you wanted to be starting automatically. There's no guarantee that you're starting at Chelsea.
Listen, there is no guarantee, but on that club right now, Tom, you might be able to start for Chelsea.
Oh, no.
I'm telling
No.
you, it is a disaster. I'm reading reports already that Enzo Fernandez, who signed this massive deal, was a big transfer fee from my first favorite club, Benfica in Portugal.
Right.
There's already rumors that he wants out.
yeah, he wants that on the record, because Chelsea's so bad right now. Shout out to Benfica.
Just saying, Benfica
Yeah.
is family. You know, that's in my blood. I don't know, and I do think Petrovic starts for this team.
Yeah, but how long
Within the
until
next-
he takes the job away from Sanchez?
I think he starts in the next 2 to 3 months.
Whoa.
Guess what would have happened in 2 to 3 months?
I understand that.
You would have won an MLS Cup by
Yeah,
then.
why couldn't you
But
say 1 month? What are you doing?
But I know, I'm sorry, but I do but because I got to be honest, I don't know if he gets it right away.
Real.
I still think he'd go. It
I
doesn't
don't think
matter.
Petrovic unfortunately sees it the same way that we do.
I don't know if the
think he
Revolution.
does.
I don't know what if
It
the
goes
club
back to what I
does
said
either.
earlier about agents being in these guys' ears.
What about the club? The club doesn't either.
It's the prestige. There's so much involved. And Tom, I get it, and I'm not saying you and I and Nick would probably think that way, but when you're thinking about the amount of money you're going to make to go play in the top
think
league
what?
in the
Hold
world,
on. Think what way?
that maybe we would want to stick. Maybe not for the money.
No,
Yeah,
no.
go for the money.
To go. Sorry. Listen. Again, loyal till forever. That's a great
A deal's a
quality.
deal.
When you can go from this league to the EPL
Yeah.
with that price tag, you do it.
Yeah.
That's it.
I know. I agree. I
Him, you
Petrovic
do it.
was
If you're
never
the
sane.
front office, I think you got to fight. And I just didn't think they fought. And I think they needed to get the money because they know what's coming.
Well, Tom, another counterpoint here. If you're the Revolution at that time, what do you see coming in the near future? Is potentially a Bruce investigation? How long did they know that was coming? There's that.
Which is why I said they needed the money.
But that's already a distraction.
Yeah.
Right. Now, you're a contending team in the Eastern Conference. Your goalie is getting offers thrown at him for some big money. Now, it's evident by sitting out a game, he's unhappy that first deal fell through. Do you need another distraction? Because now what if he decides to sit out games in September? You get nothing for him, even if it's on a loan deal.
And that price tag goes.
And the price tag gets cut in half, like we saw the initial offer from Nottingham Forest. Now what do? Now you're playing without a coach. You're getting that distraction. You got some guys getting banged up, and now your star goalkeeper doesn't even want to be there, and you lost out on half of the price you could have got him for. So those are the things you got to think about when you're an organization. Yes, MLS Cup is something that they still want, but it is a business. They made the right business decision. Petrovic was never going to stay here for the rest of the season. Taylor, there you go. I've been agreeing with you since the beginning. I don't hate where Tom's head is at because he's thinking in an ideal world. Unfortunately, that's not a world we live in.
which again is so antithetical from what Tom normally does. That's why it's an interesting.
Well, he wants to see the club win.
So do we, but
and
but this is Tom is like a business guy, a money guy, a stat guy. Like that makes so much
just
sense.
don't
with
talk
all
about
those-
Business of
Everett.
winning pays more.
just don't talk to him about Everett. That's all.
Jesse Marsh, Phil Neville, Showery, Mourinho,
No Mourinho.
No,
Jay
Mourinho.
Heaps.
Moving from
That's my list.
Everybody else,
Mourinho.
yes.
Why would? But here's why I only throw out Mourinho. And yes, it's the unicorn candidate.
I
And
mean,
by the way, I like to. You know what?
manifest it. Throw it
I
out
like
there.
you throwing it out
yeah,
there.
throw it out
Whatever,
there.
just throw it out
You know what?
there.
Because if
It's
you're
the
right, you look like a
need-
genius.
Well, hold on. You need this unicorn candidate because I think you need a guy. There's something that Bruce did when he was here that took this organization to the next level. And it was the fact that you let the soccer people run the soccer club. It also helps. He had the name cachet with it. I think you need that combination again to continue this momentum of success that you've built over the last 3-4 years now, and I see my names that will continue that success.
I'll tell you multiple reasons why.
There's plenty of reasons why Mourinho won't
is
come,
not
but I
coming
would.
here.
But my view of it is
He doesn't see it the same way though, because he is
stadium.
He loves himself.
Sure.
He loves himself. He loves the glory that he's had. He's won
You don't
Champions
think he'd
Leagues.
be loved here though? The Portuguese audience.
No, they would absolutely love him. Absolutely, I love Jose Mourinho.
You'd pack out Gillette every week.
He won a Champions League with a team in Portugal, which is the last team to do it. Was 20 years ago with FC Porto. He won one with Inter Milan. He won one with Chelsea.
Madrid.
I'm sorry, no, not with Chelsea. He won with Inter Milan. He won one with Madrid. He never won with Chelsea. So you got to look at it this way. This guy has this prestigious history behind him, but he's also really loved himself. And if you follow what he's been doing in Italy with Roma, he gets get involved in the news. He was making fun of Juventus last year for losing some points, and they ended up getting them back and pass him in the standings, and he looked like an idiot. I don't think that he comes here and plays in that stadium, right, that holds 65,000 people, and has a club playing in front of 25,000, which is good if it's in a 25,000 person stadium. It was
a good crowd Saturday night, but you're right.
Crowd.
It's
You
tough.
need to build that thing already.
He's not going to play for an organization that is second fiddle, because they're behind the Patriots. Matter of fact, I think they're even behind Taylor Swift at this point at Gillette Stadium.
Ooh.
Sad to say, but it's the truth. He's not going to want to do that. So
It's been
it's fun to
different,
think
though.
about, but it's never going to happen.
It's been different in the sense that
You're more
the
likely to
stadium
get
is-
a Neville, to get a Wayne Rooney,
Neville would happen.
to get guys that like the league, that are already involved in the league.
Neville makes sense.
You're more likely to get a guy like that.
Neville makes sense.
But a guy like Mourinho that chases the Champions Leagues, or if Saudi calls him, he's going to chase that
what
money.
was the big knock on him in Miami?
Neville.
Yeah.
Well, he had a terrible team.
Yeah, he terrible team. He could get the designated player situation. Could have get it right. He had what's his name, that never wanted to play. God, I forget his name off the top of my head.
That's all right. Not Joseph Martinez.
Not Martinez.
It was before him.
Oh, before him?
Can't.
No.
It's gonna drive me insane. We're not allowed. Nobody's allowed to leave this effing show until I
Yes.
figure out who we're talking
All right,
about.
Fair
well,
enough. Steve,
good thing we have a computer
we
here.
get the I team on it. Now, if you want to have some fun and throw out some fun, you can do the ones that make sense. Let's start with the ones that make sense. Strawberry Joseph, I think, makes a lot of sense. Richie
Williams has to at least get a
I think
look.
he's the lead right
Yeah.
now. I mean, he has until proven otherwise, or
That's
he
the
doesn't,
thing. Like,
or he
if
doesn't want it.
Like, what if this team does win?
He stays.
That's it.
He stays unless
Yeah.
he gets an offer to go elsewhere.
Yeah,
and he
that's
wants
true.
to, he wants to get out of here. I think you start with your homegrown guys, your guys that are already involved, but you could look at some of the bigger names. You brought up Jay Heaps, which got the people going on Twitter on the X machine.
Because here's the thing, I think the Revs like going with what they know, and I also would like to see what Jay Heaps
Bring
can
back
do.
Stevie Nichols, my guy.
Sure, but Jay's younger, right? Jay's been coaching,
Yeah.
or he's been running the Birmingham Legion down there. Listen, I'm not the biggest fan of Jay personally, but
I mean,
I think
bring up Birmingham, Connell Smith.
you got Kano.
He's busy here in Rhode Island, but
I would say it's the fact that he's got familiarity with the Revs. The Crafts know him. I'm thinking of guys that the Crafts would open up their checkbook to.
but think about
Wouldn't that be Charles Ree, who's just been in this organization the entire time? Why would you bring a Heaps back if you have a Charles Ree
Heaps
Joseph?
won with nothing. And I think if you opened up the checkbook for Heaps, he actually probably could do something. I mean, it was very difficult it all depends on who has that technical director's role. This is all, of course, or sporting
we're just
director.
we're spitballing here.
Just
Yeah,
in
yeah.
case Bruce happens to come back in 2024.
I'd like to see those odds.
Yeah. Okay, bet on
Tommy's going to throw down a parlay. He's going to parlay Bruce back in 2024 in Miami MLS Cup. That's got to be like plus.
Let me tell you this:
5,000.
that doesn't exist yet. But if it does, Tommy will find
Already
that
on it.
parlay.
If we ever get a
Tommy
deal-
will find that parlay.
You know what the best part about this that I can already picture it. If we ever get a deal with the sports book, the Tommy takes parlay.
Oh, And
Oh
then
my
just,
God.
just fading left
They
and
give
right.
you like an
You
just fade it.
just fade
Just fade
like
it.
big cat fade.
Hashtag fade Tommy.
Yeah.
Oh man.
It was Blaze Matuidi, by the way, that had his
Yes,
standoff
Matuidi,
with,
Matuidi,
Neville.
Matuidi,
It was
yes.
Matuidi and Neville that had their little pissing match.
There we go.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's so much. It's sad. It's sad that we're here because in June, about 2 months ago, we were talking about this team being an MLS Cup contender. I don't think that they're not necessarily still an MLS Cup contender.
They still are.
There's just they got to overcome
Got a lot
so
going on.
much
Got a
more.
lot going
now.
on.
They got to overcome so much more, and it's like why?
Got a
Why
lot
does this
going
all
on.
happen? Why?
This is sports.
You felt like Bruce was finally coming to like the climax of his era, right? Bad visual, but the climax of his era, where it's like this, what he's been building here for 3 to 4 years is finally starting to come to fruition. You're seeing the depth, you're seeing the veterans step up, you're
The
seeing
moves the players that came in.
the players that came in, the
Yep.
players that are going out.
Yeah.
It's
Tough.
it's tough. It's a tough time right now, but let's see how resilient this team is.
All right. So New England Revolution in action tomorrow night, or if you're listening to this on Saturday, tonight. 8:30 versus Minnesota United, which, by the way, Adrian Heath on the sideline, obviously, for Minnesota. So it'll be interesting if any of the Minnesota reporters have to ask anything to Mr. Heath about Mr. Arena, because they're very close friends. So just pointing that out.
Oh boy, it's gonna be. I don't know. This is like Panda Watch.
I still think this...
It's like when a panda is about to give birth at a zoo, and you're just waiting. You got reporters waiting outside, just waiting for something, any news, some bamboo.
Shout out to Anchor, man.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. I'm glad somebody picked up on that.
All right. See you.